Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to each of the witnesses for being here today. My first question, Mr. Boardman, going back to earlier statements you made during the Q&A, you had mentioned that there were 6 to possibly 10, if I'm doing the math right, vulnerabilities identified, similar to what we saw in the Northeast Corridor, the northbound train going toward the curve. And you mentioned that these types of curbs existed, and have you installed code change points at those curves? And if so, was there a cost to do so?
So if you have to go back to the Back Bay incident in 1990, and when that occurred, the safety community got together, the operators got together to look at what needs to be done to protect ourselves in that case. And what they identified were 6 curves on the Northeast Corridor that they needed to treat. And those 6 curves included the north side of the Frankfurt curve, because the entrance speed at 110 was greater than what the turnover speed was in the curve itself.
Correct.
And so they put a code change point there.
Is there a cost to install the code change point there?
I'll get to that in a minute. On the south side, there was not a need to do that because the approach speed was 80 miles an hour, and therefore, even if that engineer failed to slow, they wouldn't overturn. So there were 6 places along the way.
Total of 6.
And there is a moderate cost to do anything, as you know, but it's not a major cost.
What's the moderate cost?
Automatic, I don't know. The automatic train control system really provides an idea whether there's something in front of you on the tracks. So the way that you do this code change is you really have a bit of fiction here. You say there is something at the curve, and so that's when you put the code change point in. So it wasn't built to do positive train control.
Okay.
On the other 4 where you added up 6 and 4, what we looked at with the FRA emergency order was the change that occurred here, and that in that conditions that exist on the south side, and we put that code change in on the south side. We looked to find out on the Northeast Corridor, we had 300 curves, what conditions or what curves meeting that condition need to be changed, and that's what we told FRA we would work to do.
Okay. I don't have a lot of time left, and I have a lot of questions. So if you could have your staff get back to me on if you found any other Amtrak corridors with the same issues, and when do you estimate you'll be done identifying and actually installing code changes on those areas identified as vulnerable?
We would only do this on the Northeast Corridor on the emergency order.
Are there any other? I mean, I have Amtrak corridors in my state of Illinois. Are there any other vulnerabilities there that you've identified?
You have them all over the United States because we're mostly on host railroads, and they depend on the expertise of our engineers and how the signaling system work, or if there's no signaling at all, and there are locations across the country where that occurs, they depend on what we call a Form D control point, a control system.
Okay, well, I'm going to move on to a different subject. In a 2012 Inspector General report, Amtrak was criticized because despite the legal requirements to do so, Amtrak did not include the funding requirements for PTC in its 5-year financial plan and annual budget requests. And this is directly from the IG report here. Your engineering and finance departments could not explain this critical omission. Can you?
Well, what we saw was in that particular report in 2012 was that they were looking for us to have come to Congress to specifically ask for PTC service. And that wasn't what we operated with Congress. It was almost like a block grant of capital projects. I identified as soon as I got over there what it was going to cost for us to meet this requirement by December of 2015. And it was about the safety of that, not about the dollars of that.
Okay, I'm reading the report here, and it just said further, a transportation official stated that his department's purposely omitted PTC installation costs on host railroad lines from Amtrak's 5-year plan and annual budget requests. He cited his belief that including these costs in the budget would weaken Amtrak's negotiating position with the host railroads, et cetera. That's concerning to us, but I appreciate the job you do. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all the witnesses. I yield back the balance of my time.